Okay, what you're going to need from your 2 looms in order to make this is 4 of your loom pieces, of your peg pieces, your 2 center brackets, and 2 of your end brackets. You're going to take 2 of your loom bars and put them onto your end pieces, making sure that they're as close as possible. Now I have this piece facing to the right, and then you notice I'm putting it on the innermost piece of this. And then my next piece I'm putting on the innermost piece on this side. And I'm facing opening to the left. I do this because I actually turn it as I go. And I find that the easiest way for me to do a cornrow. You can have them all facing the same direction if you don't mind picking from this side and then picking from this side. This is just personally how I prefer to do it. I prefer doing it one way, turning it, and doing the other side. So this is personal preference, okay? Once I have them on, I'm going to go to one end, and I'm going to put both of them onto the end piece, push it on nice and tight. Then I'm going to go to, move my tray out of the way. I'm going to go to the other end and do the same thing. Put them both on the other end cap and push them on nice and tight. So they're tight on that end cap. Right, now I'm ready to get started. Okay, now that I have the loom together, I'm going to begin, and I'm going to begin by putting twisted bands, or 8s as I call them, all the way down. I'm starting 1 set in, and I'm going to end 1 set in. And one more. Okay, please pause the video if you need to catch up, because I'm not going to record the long time it takes to go from one end to the other, just for the sake of the time of the video. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting on our diagonal rows. With the diagonal rows, we can start doing patterns. And the first pattern I'm going to show you how to do is the diagonal pattern. In order to do a diagonal pattern, I'm going to start with one color on the very end, and the next row does get angled, so don't get the angle of the band confused with what I'm saying about a diagonal pattern. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a triangle like I have here, except I'm going to be making it in the opposite direction on here. It's going to go up like this one does, from here to here. Except I'm going to make it from the very end, and it's going to go up. So we're going to be making a triangle in green. So I used a pink at the end, but I'm going to start a triangle going up in green from here, and then it's going to go up into the pattern. So my first color is pink, but all the rest on this row are going to be green, and they're all going at an angle. And I did for this start at the end. If you have trouble with how I'm doing this pattern is called a cornrow pattern. Go back to my cornrow pattern and watch how that's done, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on how to make a cornrow. I'm spending more time on this video on how to make the design that I'm creating, and also how to make a pattern in a cornrow. Alright, so I've started with the first 3, and I'm going to continue down the line. Okay, now that I have the first 2 rows on, I'm going to go back down and put another filler row, which is the row that just goes from front to back, and that's going to be yellow again for me, and it's always for me going to be yellow for this row. I always use the same color consistently throughout my design for my filler row. And I will just keep it on and go through this quickly, because this is just a nice, quick, easy one to do. And these go on the same place as the bottom ones previously. So that will stop one from the end, just like the previous one, and started one from the end. And once these are all on, you're going to go back to the beginning, and you're going to go to the bottom, and you are going to take the bottom one and pull it up over to the middle. You're going to go all the way down the line to do this, and then you're going to turn it around to the other side and do the exact same thing on the other side. Once you have them all pulled over and pushed down, you are ready for your next row. And your next row is going to be your angled row again. And I'm back to the side where my pink is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pink on again where my pink is, and I'm moving in one more step. My next one's going to be pink also. And then from there, I'm going to put green on all the rest. So the only colors that I'm changing are my diagonal ones. My ones that are going vertically. I know my angles. The ones that are going vertically are staying consistent. I consider them my consistent colors. I use the same color for them throughout the palette. The only ones I change color with are my diagonal ones. If you run into the same issue I ran into, that it's tight here in the center, all I do is I take a pencil and push it down in, and that loosens everything up. And then I continue down the row. Okay, now I'm ready to go and pull these over. So let me get my hook. And I'm going to pull over both sides. Okay, and now that I'm done pulling that over, I'm going to turn it back over to the beginning, and I'm going to put on my horizontal, my vertical row, which I keep calling my horizontal row. Sorry about that. Which is my base color of yellow, and I'm going to put that all the way down again. Alright, Okay, now that I have that on, I'm going to go down both sides and I'm going to pull the very bottom one up over the top into the center, just like I've been doing. Alright, so now we're ready to add the next row of diagonals. We're just going to add towards our pattern. And this time, rather than the first two, it's going to be the first three because we're still pushing in towards that triangle. So every time I'm adding one more pink as I go in. And that way I'm stepping inward towards the triangle. So now I've got 3 pinks and then all the rest are going to be green. So I'm going to go ahead down the row and put green for all the rest of these, all the rest of my diagonal ones. Make sure these are pushed down enough for it. Okay, then I'm going to go down and pull the bottom one, very bottom one, up and over on both sides. Okay, now I'm ready to pull these up over, and I'm going to, of course, again, pull them over on both sides. As you can see now, I'm on the diagonal again, and I will continue to step in this design. With each time I go to the diagonal, I'll be adding just one more pink in to get my angle. So you get the idea of how to put the triangle into the design. It's a pretty simple concept as far as putting a triangle into it. So I think that should give you the idea of how to put a pattern on it. So I'm going to go on and make this the rows that needs to be made, and then I'll come back and we'll go on with our design. Okay, so I'm not counting rows, but I am going to give you a measurement that I am about 2 inches, a little short of 2 inches down, and I'm going to stop here and change off from my cornrow. And I'm going to change from the cornrow into the alligator pattern now. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to switch off and I'm going to go down and pull another one over so that I only have one left on the peg. And now every time I put a row on top, I'm going to pull the row on the bottom over, so I'm always left with just one on the peg. Now the pattern's going to go quicker, I'm happy to say, because the cornrow is definitely a slower pattern. So this is going to go a little quicker, even though it's a long loom, so it's still going to have the length of that. But it'll definitely go faster than the cornrow pattern, which is definitely a longer, more tedious pattern. So I'm going to do both sides this way. So the only difference between the alligator skin pattern and the cornrow pattern is that for the alligator skin pattern, you're going to pull them over every time rather than have two bands left on the peg. You put the bands on the exact same way onto the pegs. The only difference is you're only going to have one band on the peg each time. See, I'm starting to pull this through each time. You can see our triangle pattern starting to pull through. But you're going to continue to put them on the exact same way. You're going to have your consistent, I'm going to have my consistent yellows going vertically, and I'm going to have my diagonals going on every other time. So everything's still going to go on the same way, except every time I'm going to be pulling over, and I'm going to leaving one thing on the peg. So now I'm going to put on the yellows all the way down. Stopping one set of pegs short from the end. Then I'm going to go and pull all these over on both sides, just like I would with the cornrow. Except as you see, I've only got two on the peg. And it's going to be like that from now on. It's only going to be two on the peg instead of three. Okay, now it's both sides. And then after this one, I'm going to go back and we're going to start the diagonals. You can see the pinks are pretty far over on this now. Oops. Helps if I do them at a diagonal. So the rubber band pattern, putting them on, stays the same. The only thing different is that you're just pulling one over one instead of one over two. And I am definitely marking this as an advanced pattern. And what I started doing down here was putting these, for this pattern, I started doing these two greens. After I got to the end of my pink triangle, tapering in, I started doing two greens and two pinks. So I'd have diagonal stripes from then on. and then 2 greens and 2 pinks, and I'm just doing that from all the way in from there. I have no idea what it's going to look like, but I thought I'd try it. I'm experimenting, so we'll find out together what this turns out like. I'm assuming it's going to be some kind of diagonal stripe. Then I'm going to go back and pull these over on both sides. Okay, so again, that pattern is going to repeat that design, so I'm going to go ahead and do several rows, and I will be back when I am ready to show you something. Alright, I have this the length that I'm ready to take it off the loom, and I'm going to show you about how long you want to make it before you're ready to take it off. So you can see it is just under 3 inches. If I take it right to the top there, it's about 3 inches, okay? So yes, that's how long you want it to be before you take it off, about 3 inches long. So you don't have to worry about counting rows. You're just going to take it from where it's at on the loom down and just measure 3 inches. It's much easier than having to count your rows as you go. So once you've got 3 inches on there, you're ready to take it off the loom, and you're going to do that. Your last row that you're going to put on is the row going from top to bottom. And then you are going to go and take your back one and place it from, okay, and then you're going to use your hook to pull it from the back to the front. And that includes your diagonal ones. Just put them on the front bar because we're going to remove this back bar. And I'm catching it with the hook, but I'm also holding it onto the hook with my finger so it doesn't come off when I pull it along to the front, when I pull it over. Okay, so everything's on the front bar, so I'm going to go ahead and take the back bar off. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some bands and I'm going to link them together because I'm going to need them for after I'm done the next step. I'm just pulling them through each other so I have a few of them together. And then I'm going to put these aside. I'm going to need these after the next step. So I'm setting that aside. And then what I'm going to do with this is pull all the bottoms over the tops so I end up with just one hoop all the way down the bar. Alright, now I'm ready to start taking it off the loom and putting it onto the band that I had set aside. And this is what I'm going to use to pull the top part into one piece for the center of the hat. So I'm going to start taking them off one at a time. I have this hooked on my finger like so. And I'm just going to start pulling them onto this. Just one at a time. So I pull it off, I grab it here, and I pull it over onto it. Pull it off of here, pull it over onto it. Keep putting it back on my finger each time. So I'm going to put this on my pinky so it's just out of the way. It doesn't need to be in the way. Each time you lift these up, be careful you're not pulling them so hard that you're going to pull the next one off. Also, whoops, make sure I let go of that. And I'm almost to the end here. And one more. And it's completely off the loom. So I can set the loom aside. Done with that part. Now I'm going to take both ends of this. I'm going to pull this tight. And I'm actually going to tie this. So I'm going to tuck it through and pull it around. And I'm pulling it nice and tight. Okay. And then I'm going to wrap it around again. Tuck it through and pull it tight. And then one more time. Wrap it around my fingers. Tuck it through. Pull it tight. I'm just going to do it one more time again, just to make sure it's nice and secure. Alright, and you can clip this or just leave it on the inside of the hat. And now we're ready to secure the side. But as you can see, it's taking its shape now. But now we are ready to start stitching up the side. Okay, now before you do the side stitching, you need to decide which side you want to have out, the inside or the outside, which side you want showing outward. They do look pretty much the same, but you just need to decide which side you want facing outward before you go, okay? Because you're going to stitch on one side and then you're going to turn it inside out, and that's going to be your finished product. Alright, so I'm going to stitch on this side, and then I'm going to turn it inside out, and then I'm going to be done. So I'm going to start on this end and then work my way towards the bands here so I can tie it to those bands when I'm done. Alright, so I'm going to grab some bands, grab some pink ones here, and like I usually do when I'm going to be stitching is I load them up on my finger. I don't know whether you can hear the bird in the background, but she's mad at me because I left her downstairs. Alright, so we're going to start stitching, and you're going to stitch together pretty much the same way as I show you how to do most things. You're going to put the hook through the side of both pieces, grab your band, pull it through, hook it on the other end of the hook, and then pull it through itself. Then you're going to go back through the side again, and through the other side, grab the band, pull it through, hook it on the end, and from here out you're pulling it through two pieces each time. So think of it as you're using the rubber bands to sew it together. Through the toe. Get a couple more bands on. Each time I'm pulling it through two bands as I pull it through. Put it through, hook it on, pull it through, hook it on, pull it through two. That's what you're doing each time. Pull it through, hook it on, pull it through two. hook it on, pull it through too. Now you're going to come up to the looser parts, so it's just a little bit trickier finding the spots where you're going to put it through. Just a little bit more work. I'm going to need to stop and load it back up, load my finger back up with bands. Make sure you don't put your stitches too far apart, or it's going to make everything tug. Oh, got a piece of kitty cat hair there. Make sure you don't have these too far apart, your stitches, or it'll make it bunch in. Alright, so you got to make sure you keep them close enough. And make sure you're getting at least under at least 2 bands on each side. And these bands are pretty long, so I may put it 2 under each of them. Because if I don't, it'll probably be too bunchy. So I'm going to put 2 stitches under each one of these bands. There we go. And I think that's good for the last one on that side. And then I'm going to pull an extra one through here. Pull it through itself, just so it's long enough to give me something to tie to. And tie it to my extra tie that was hanging here already. And then I'm going to turn everything back around. And we have our hat all ready for our doll. So I hope you liked this tutorial, and thank you for watching. Please check back for my other tutorials. Willlowcreat.com is my website where you can find my downloadable patterns. Thanks for watching.